been waiting and waiting for the passcode. I've been here for an hour waiting.
Oh my gosh, I doubt that. I highly doubt that.
Highly doubt that type of accuracy. I just
Jake.
got back from the gym, so I'm not really, you know.
I like the I mean, we've already talked about the on air and the picture, but it's a little darker today.
I know, I don't know why. I might need to turn another overhead light on. Do you want to wait 1 second or
No, it
no?
looks fine. It's very moody.
Oh, it's moody, is
It's
it?
moody.
Oh, it's Oh, so now we're moody. Okay.
Where's your
Is this
microphone?
working?
There it is. Yep. You were like kind of far away and then you just showed up.
I think we need to get right into it. I think we
Oh,
need to get right.
we need to get right into it. But just one thing, because you'll
Yes.
keep it up here sometimes.
Oh
Just kind of
no.
talk at it a little bit more.
I like to eat it like an ice cream cone.
Okay. Okay.
Just kidding. Just kidding. No, I will. Also, you'd be proud to know I made it to the pod this evening on time, even though I once again have sliced my thumb
God.
with a knife.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't even text you. I said, no, I wouldn't bother Jake about this. I wouldn't.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I'm gonna save it for the pod.
I'm going to save it for the pod.
Gosh.
You can't tell, but there's a lot of blood. No.
You're not only on time, you're early, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
And I did that because I might just pass right out.
Oh, okay. So we've
Just
got
kidding.
Melissa for the next half an hour before all
Yeah.
the blood leaves her head. And
Yes, I would never let you down, but I am bleeding out currently.
okay,
Just kidding.
maybe that's the name of the episode. Needless to say, we have a lot to talk about. And
Yes.
we're gonna get kind of right to it because we heard people like when we just get right.
We,
No
you know
riffraff.
what we do? We give the people what they want.
We're gonna give the people what they want. I think this is gonna be a good one because we've got a guy. We've got a guy,
We've got a guy,
and he has done stuff.
and we like this guy.
Yeah,
Do we
yeah.
hate him?
We don't hate him.
We don't hate him. We love him.
No, we love him. Uh,
I'm
he
so
moved,
excited.
he moved to Warwick, I think like maybe 2 years ago. I think we should do this one
Okay.
more like interview style. Like, who are you? Where are you from? What makes
Okay.
you you?
Okay. Q, 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 Q.
Couple
Let's just ask him a couple cutie cues.
of cues. Let's get into it. Let's talk to Lee Bonnie.
Welcome, Lee Bonnie.
Hello,
What is?
Melissa. Hello, Jake.
Hey, buddy.
How are you, Lee?
How's it going?
Good. How do you feel? You a little nervous?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
I
fine.
just I feel like I have a talk that I don't know what it's about and
Oh my God.
But when you have a talk, do you do better when you have plenty of time to prepare, or do you do better when you have like no time to prepare?
I'm a procrastinator. I need to have a gun to my head in order to operate. So, yeah.
All right, so pretend we have a gun to your head.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
Well, how far do you want to go back?
Where'd you
Oh,
grow
we
up?
can go. We can go.
Where'd you grow
Okay,
up?
well, I'm from Southern California, born in a place called Temple City, which is in Southern Cal, but I moved to Hawaii back in 94. Which also leads to this whole sailing thing. My dad sailed a boat there by himself. Took him 36 days by himself, and he was trying to hit Oahu. He hit Big Island, so that was kind of interesting.
Okay,
Wow.
so
But anyways,
you guys lived in California, and then the catalyst was he decided to sail to Hawaii.
that's right. He read a book, and he's like, "Hey, I want to sail a boat to Hawaii," and he bought a boat and he sailed a boat there. Tried to get his buddies to go with him, but he couldn't get anybody on board, literally.
Ah,
Yeah. So
you've already said so many interesting things
I know.
in 5 seconds. I fear that we're underqualified for this
Right.
interview. In fact,
So
I
far,
mean,
so good.
yeah, I definitely got a story.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what? So your dad does this. So this is 94. So you're like my age. So you were like 12,
Well,
11.
that's when we finally moved to Hawaii. So my dad sailed the boat there by himself back in 89.
Okay.
And then he was chasing work, Southern Cal work was kind of getting dried up. My dad was a contractor and he always had a fascination in sailing and boating and
cool.
he was a reader, and he just kind of got an idea. And once he got an idea, he just kind of runs with it, and
Hmm.
that's what he did.
So did you grow up on boats, or that started it with him? Like when he started doing
Yeah,
it?
so yeah, I grew up around boats. Yeah, like is I remember living in Coronado actually, which is San Diego, on a boat for a while. That's when he first bought the boat. This was back in 85, 6. So I was just kind of a kid. I barely remember it, but I do remember being there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
That's cool.
as long as I remember, we've always been around boats, you know.
cool.
Do you remember any specific, like you always envision like a sailor out on a boat, or at least in my mind you do. And they've got like this ratted like book that they carry around everywhere that's like all these sailing stories. And they're like, no, no one with me on this one.
Um,
I think of like a wool sweater, even in
Yeah,
California.
like I have an idea of what your
that's more
dad
of a
looks like.
fisherman. That's
More
more
of
of
a
a
fisherman.
traditional fisherman.
That's true.
Oh,
That's
okay.
true.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So he's more of the explorer. He's not in this fisherman vibe.
No, no, he's more of like kind of a boat rat, we call him. Like if you go to harbors, you'll see them. They're out there. They exist.
Okay.
It's like another way of living. My dad was like a real renegade. He didn't like the typical way of, American dream. He was just, yeah, he was
Wow.
different.
Cool.
So was he working and then bought the boat and was like, this is going to be my lifestyle now?
Yeah, well, you know what? He had a big family. I mean, I'm number two of 6 kids. He bought a boat. It was a 48-foot cement boat. It was called a Samson design, Samson Seabreeze. It was a ketch. A ketch means that two-masted. A ketch in particular is when the front mast is taller than the back mast. So, um, as far as rigs go, like it was a 48-foot ferro cement ketch.
So what does the cement part mean? Like what is that?
It's exactly what it sounds like. A boat is made out of cement. It's almost like, think about stucco.
Wow.
So you like they would um well, I don't know too much about ferro cement. I'm more of a wood guy, but I've seen the process. Is they shape it like with the rebar, they shape
Yeah.
it and they like
Oh,
gunite it, they spray it, and then there's like metal reinforcing like chicken wire, kind of like stucco. But
Okay.
wow.
it's cement.
Interesting.
It's a
Um,
cement boat, probably inch and a inch and a quarter thick.
okay. So it's
I've
really
never heard of
thin.
that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really heard of that either. Huh.
It it's not a very desirable thing. It was like a trial thing. You can make a boat out of anything really,
Yeah.
aluminum,
Mhm.
steel, wood. I
I can
mean,
just imagine you, Lee, like walking out as a young boy. You're like, we're ready to hit the ocean blue. And it's like just a cement block. And you're like, ah, this is not a good prototype.
yeah, I was pretty young with that boat, but
So
I do
that was the
know it.
beginning. That was just the start.
That was the start of it all. Yeah,
Okay.
that was my first boat. Uh, yeah, experience, I guess,
Experience.
Yeah.
the is I remember being very young and just going out there and just thinking it was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So then so that's in the 80s. When does your dad get the boat that he ends up sailing to Hawaii?
It was 89. So he left in June, I think, of 89. And it was supposed to take him about 2 weeks, which is a typical uh, crossing from California to Hawaii because the wind's in your favor. So
Huh.
Um, and it's interesting because there was a Transpac race going on, which is a Trans-Pacific. It's a race from San Diego to Waikiki, Hawaii. My dad happened to be leaving around that same time. Of course, they do it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
However, this was a unique time because there was 10 days of absolutely no wind. So they were
Whoa.
all out there just bobbing like corks. So it on top of my dad learning how to navigate along the way, and I'm not even messing with you here. This is true story. I got his log to this day, but he learned to read a sextant along the way. I got all his readings. His
Wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah. And that's
That
what
is
he hit.
cool.
He hit Big Island. He was trying to hit Oahu. So it wasn't bad, but he did it.
That's
So
so cool.
So I know what it is, but for everyone else, what's reading a what?
A sextant. It's
Again, I know what that is, but for everyone else.
And the spelling might be
sextant, I believe is what it is.
So is that reading the stars?
Yeah, essentially it's a really, I don't know it. I don't completely understand it, but I know the basics. But it's essentially measuring the angle off the horizon. Every star moves like a clock, you can predict it.
wow.
So what you do is you basically take this measuring tool, and then you take a reading, and it gives you a measurement from the horizon to this particular star. There's certain benchmarks in the heavens that are just easier to see.
Huh.
North Star is one of them. The Big Dipper, just these big constellations, and they track a certain place, at a certain time every year, and it's predictable. So if
Wow.
you have the almanac, which is a little booklet,
Hmm.
you can basically cross-reference that. This should be here at this time of year. And
Wow.
if you're here and if you're getting this reading, well, then you should be about this latitude and longitude. So
Wow.
it's good.
And then that's how you know you're on track to go to the right place.
Yeah, and you do it every 6 hours, every 12 hours. When I crossed, we did it every 6 hours, but we had GPS, so I
Huh.
was a little bit more advanced back then. Or later on, this was back in 98 when I did it. But I was going
So
from
he,
Hawaii
but he at the
to
time used that method to get the entire way.
absolutely.
Wow, that's
Wow.
fascinating. And also, I feel like does take, I mean, I don't know, but that type of person mentally is like, I am very envious of those type of people. You go out on the open road now, most people, you immediately have your map on, it's even speaking to you where to go. And I have literally drove in circles myself before, pulled over crying and been like, well, I'll never get in a car again because I am that dumb with maps. And so to hear about a man out on the ocean, just like, ah, yes, the stars will lead. I'm just like, that's wild.
It
Yeah.
really is. And what's interesting is you can't always get an accurate reading. Like if it's overcast, you can't see any of, you could shoot the sun. The sun is another, thing you could,
Uh huh.
measure the angle off of the horizon. But it doesn't mean you can always get a reading, So your GPS is by far superior now, but
Right.
that's what he
But
had.
he
My dad
still
was
made it. Like he got to his destination.
Okay, so
he
you,
almost, he almost
yeah.
missed Big Island, in fact.
Wow.
Wow.
Because what is it from, like, you can see land from about 30 miles? Is that about right?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
So if you were like
Um,
35 miles, you could literally miss the island,
it's
even though you're right there pretty much.
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, like,
Yeah, so now he has this boat in Hawaii,
yeah.
and all of our family, us kids and his family is in Pomona, California. And he wanted to get out of Pomona, so he he's like, hey, we're gonna move to Hawaii, and we're all like super stoked about that. I was 11 years old, I think, at the time, 94. It was June of 94, July of 94. And I remember because 4th of July in Hawaii is a very big deal, fireworks everywhere. But anyways, yeah, so we ended up moving there in July of 94.
Cool.
Did
So then,
Hawaii have the same appeal as it does like now to you then? Were you like, I can't believe we're going to Hawaii? Or
Hmm,
no, it was just another place.
oh, that's a good question.
that's a really good question. I didn't know what to expect at the time, but I've been in Hawaii for more of my adult life. So now all I
Okay.
know is Hawaii. Hawaii is like my culture now. So
Okay.
That's
Because
cool.
now, I mean, you tell somebody, I'm gonna hop on a boat here and head to Hawaii with my dad. They're gonna be like, wow, what kind of, it's like, and then Italy, we don't know. We're just popping around. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
yeah, I realized my life wasn't normal when I started telling these stories to certain people, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
like,
so
"I thought we all did this."
so you
They're like
moved,
headed to the shop and save for some cinnamon toast crunch. You're like, crab legs for me again. Wild.
so you moved to Hawaii in 94 and you're 11 or 12.
hmm
So then you were 16 when you did it from Hawaii back to California.
Yeah, it was around then.
And
Yeah,
you were, who were you with?
I was with two other guys. I was a deckhand because
Okay.
once again boats. Um at this point we had moved to Hawaii from 94, 96, 97, 90 to about 98. Yeah, about that time. We were living in a harbor at the time actually, a place called Kehi Lagoon. Um it's a state harbor. Actually, this one was a private. I take it back. This was Kehi Marina. We were bougie. We were out of the
Mm.
city side and my dad was either we had a lot of money or we had nothing. He was very imbalanced. Yeah, so at the time we had a better situation. So and at that point we had bought a new boat too. So now I'm on a 65 footer, which is the one I showed you, Jacob, that went up on the rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You got a
that was
I
picture
want to
of
hear
it,
about
Jake?
that. I want to hear about that. So so he bought that boat, but you guys had to go get it, right?
it was in the boatyard. So, during this gap of, 94 to 98-ish, I was around boats, I would work in the boatyards. Instead of mowing lawns, I would scrape bottoms of boats. So I was a certified diver at, not like certified diver, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not too fancy, but I could fill
Yeah.
my own tanks. So I would dive in the water and scrape the bottoms of boats. I'd get $1 a foot. So making money in the harbor.
Wow.
So all of a sudden I got this network of boat rats, um, that led to commercial fishing in Alaska. That led to crossing the ocean to San Diego. But you're just exposed to a whole new world, that's not
Mhm.
your common, So
Okay.
I think that's kind of the reason being around boats is why my life has been, a little bit different than most. But
Huh.
what was the question again?
The boat that you sent, I'll send Melissa the video, but the boat that got caught up on the reef, you said you guys pulled that out of the ocean, right? Like you had to take barrels and bring it up to
Okay,
shore.
yeah. So yeah, that's a whole nother story in itself. But originally, when we got a hold of that boat, it was a very famous boat actually. It's built in 1948. It's a 65-foot John Alden yawl. Um, it was a gorgeous boat. She was fast. She was just an amazing boat. But we found it in a boatyard. It was going to get cut up.
Mm.
And it was wooden boat building in Hawaii has gone the way of the dodo. Nobody does it there because it's too expensive. Everything is too expensive there. You can't get woods that you need to
Yeah.
build it, so it's gonna get cut up. And my dad's like, that boat is not gonna get cut up. So he bought that boat for $1,000
Wow.
and we trucked it to a yard somewhere in another part of the island. And we lived on it while we built it,
Wow.
rebuilt it, and
Is this your dad and like 6 kids and your parents?
yeah,
Wow.
five kids. Five kids, and then Christina was born in 97. So yeah, I
Okay.
would say probably, yeah, you know what, I take it back. It was all six. Yeah.
Oh.
So when you're saying like my life was a lot different than someone else's, I feel like there's a couple things that, people can easily see that as something, okay, yeah, that would be very different. But what do you feel like stands out though? Because I think there's probably things that other people aren't actually thinking of that to you would stand out more than other people. Like it's easy to be like, you slept on a boat every night or something like that. Like that's very unique. Different games that you played as a kid would be very different. What do you feel like are some other things that you're like, this is really cool that would be nice for other people to like experience, but they wouldn't unless they like had this as like their life?
That's an interesting question. Most of it I wouldn't want people to experience.
I wouldn't wish
Um,
this life on a dog. Don't get me wrong.
no, really, like it's, some of it was pretty gnarly, cold
Yeah.
showers were normal. Um, when it rained, the decks would leak. So like you would be wet. Um,
Okay. Okay.
there were certain comforts that I did not have.
Okay.
A lot of us did, all of us kids, we weren't raised with certain comforts. Cable television was a privilege that we didn't
Yeah.
have. We always had really small TVs because everything is small on a boat, right? So we each
Yeah.
had a bunk. This boat was big, the 65 footer that we lived on. I had my own bunk. had my little bank of drawers,
Hmm.
personal space, and my two sisters, they shared a bunk. It was a double berth, and then they had their bunk too, or their drawers. My brother had his bunk. My folks had the V berth up forward, which is like a
Huh.
larger area, kind of a more private berth.
And
And
did you go to school or did your parents homeschool you on the boat?
wow, here we go.
He's like, nothing,
Well,
nothing of that kind happened.
no, no, no. We were the good thing about the way I was raised, I would say, is because my dad kind of always made things educational. He exposed us to
Okay.
things that most people, I mean, I was wooden boat building at it in my teens, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my dad was a master carpenter. He was a contractor. So
So the math skills were through the roof, let's be honest.
the what?
The math skills.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because he was one of those whizzes. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Jacob, Jake knows what I'm talking about. Like, those guys on site, construction sites that just crunch, rise
Yeah.
and run real quick and crunch rafter lengths. Well, that
Yeah.
was my dad was one of those guys. He just kind of like
Nice.
close his eyes and just start like, and then okay, here's what it is, and then
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
yeah,
cool.
he didn't pass that on to me, unfortunately. I rely on a construction master calculator now.
Straight
Uh,
F's this guy.
so what made the boat famous? And
Okay.
then once you fixed the boat, what happened? When you were living on it in a yard and you fixed it, but I feel like there's more to that story after that. But what made the boat famous, I guess, to start?
Yeah, boats are really interesting, especially wooden boats, because they all have just these secrets buried beneath them. We found out after we sanded the transom, which is the transom's the back of the boat, right? You got the stern, there's boat talk, you've got forward, aft. The stern is the very specific rear end of a boat.
Mhm.
Well, so here my mom is, she's sanding this thing, right? At the time when we bought it, her name was Jada 2. She was part of a three-boat fleet of charter boats. So here we are restoring this boat. She's sanding it and she starts to see this name like it. So she keeps sanding it and she's like, what is it? Like cry. And its name was Criterion. That was her original name back in 1948. She was built. And we do a lot of research on it now that we got a name of it, and we cross-reference it with some other books that my dad kind of came up with. And Marlon Brando actually owned this boat.
Oh wow,
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
dead
that's
serious.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That is wild. Do you think there's pictures of him on it somewhere? There's got to be.
I
If there is,
probably
I'm going to find
Oh,
one.
we're
Trust
gonna
me.
find one if
Yeah, we'll find
yeah.
one.
you should, yeah. I
That
mean,
is so rad.
yeah, ask me the specifics on the boat because she's an
Okay.
all-new design. But yeah, like you would, I think those specifics would probably drum something up. I can't say that I searched for one, so you probably
Wow,
would.
Oh,
that's
we're going to
awesome.
find it.
Okay, so you're living on Marlon Brando's boat,
Yep.
No big
and
deal.
then no big deal.
In
Six of you,
Hawaii,
6 kids, and then your parents,
Hmm.
and then you do you get it in the water? Like what happens there?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we launch it. We launch it. It didn't have a mast yet. Because a mast for a boat that big is really hard to find, especially in Hawaii. So it didn't have a mast for a while.
Is that what holds the sail?
Yeah, it's the main
Okay.
stick, masts, or we call them spars. Um, any one of the wood members on a boat is called a spar. So we didn't have a mast for a while. We're still building it, still working on it while she's floating now.
oh,
Um,
okay.
we come across a mast in a boatyard, and the mast was from an old racing boat called America 2, racing out of Maui.
Mm.
So we find this mast that was like 90 feet tall. We had to cut it down a little bit because our boat needed a mast that was about 75 feet. So we got her rigged up. We found, my dad pieced together a rig and we started sailing it. We started sailing it, using it, had a good time on it. We started island hopping, Molokai, Maui, Lanai, just kind of jumping around. And then let's see. Oh yeah, then my dad gets the idea, hey, we're taking this boat to California.
When he said that, were you like, sounds great, or I trust you implicitly, or were you like, whoa, dad, let's cool it for a sec?
You got good questions. Yeah, your questions are coming from a different angle. I like that. No, it was okay. So I had already made one crossing. I with those three
Okay.
guys, the two guys that I mentioned earlier. So this was probably 99 now we're talking. My dad's like, "Hey, we're gonna take this boat across." My little sister was only 2 years old,
Oh
and
man.
there was some
I mean, my
families.
nerves, I would be like a nervous wreck.
Yeah. And take a hit and the boat this boat was not, and these are the areas where I say I don't wish this on certain people, on a lot of people,
Okay.
is this boat was not seaworthy in certain ways yet.
Okay.
So she would leak, she would take on water and we would under sail because wooden boats are they just leak, they move, they flex and it's a bunch of joined wood, it leaks.
Do they
Yeah.
expand and contract a lot?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it only
Okay.
does that for a while. So like once if she's dry, she'll, she's
Tight as a tick.
well, that's when it gets saturated. Then she becomes real tight.
Oh, okay.
Wells.
Okay.
And then leaks that were there when you first dump it in the water actually close up. And
Mm.
Okay.
yeah, but depending on how hard you're driving the boat, the top sides will actually start leaking because they don't see water a lot. So you'll start getting water through the planking, and then until it keeps getting wet, and then that'll too eventually kind of close up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you felt confident about it. No.
No.
To me, I mean, first of all, let's just discuss fear of the ocean in general,
Oof.
respect for the ocean, respect for big bodies of water. I can't think of something more terrifying. Like those videos they make. Jake, we talked about this on one podcast, like at the very beginning, like the videos you can't stop watching, but
Oh
they
yeah.
scare you so bad. And mine are like those oil rig guys that are like way out in the ocean. And it's like, hey, oh,
Mm.
hey. And they're just going down under the water and back up. And I'm just sitting there, just like riveted but terrified. I'm like, no. So as soon as if I were you, Lee, and I got on a boat and my dad is like, here we go. And one little crack and there's just a peep of a water, I'd be like, we're gone. We're goners. I would be a wreck. I
You
think I would
know,
start playing that in my mind, that song. Like I just would be like, take me now, river mermaid lifestyle. Here I go. So you were scared, but
I was because I knew the boat's condition. I had already experienced some boat building, and I knew how she was structurally, and I wasn't okay with that, especially with all my siblings and my
oh
mom.
man.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, my dad put us into some hairy situations.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, the story gets better because we end up going to California, but we turn around and come back.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
So the boat is not okay. So continue on.
yeah.
like
But
how far do you get?
okay, good question. Yeah, we get out about 6 days.
Oh, so
We
you're
get
out.
out. Yeah, we're 6 days out, and there wasn't a lot of wind, and we had an engine on it. It had a what is it? A 4236 Perkins diesel in it, and it would burn oil, it would consume oils, but there wasn't much wind like that. Those 6 days there wasn't a lot of wind, so we're like, man, we're burning a lot of fuel. On top of that, we're burning oil, so we're like, this could get bad, and my dad at that point, he even as crazy as he was, he's like having a kind of not a good feeling about this trip. So so he was, and we were pretty young too. A
Mhm.
lot of us were young. I was, like I said, I was 16 or so at the time, 17 maybe at the time. But he wasn't getting a lot of help with, night shifts and stuff. So he was getting really tired and he was getting cranky, and
Oh,
I think like he's like, nah, this ain't gonna work. I can't do this.
because how many more days did you have after 6 days? Like you had to have at least another 6 days.
Oh yeah, we were like not even, because there wasn't a lot of wind, we were just
You're
putting
not even a
along.
quarter there.
Oh, not even, no.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
So you're
it's
far
funny
enough.
because you were like at this weird age in from what I would imagine where you know enough to be like, yikes. But like you're still willing to participate. Whereas the younger kids are probably like, hooray, what a life we live. And you're like, we're going down. We got to get out of here.
Well, you'd already done it at that point besides too. So
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
you've already done it before besides. So you know how far it is, you know how it's going, and you probably know it's not going
Yikes.
well.
Now, what is your mom doing?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I
my
would maybe
mom,
shoot the little SOS at some point, like I love you, my sweetie pie, but
my mom is a very durable, resilient woman. Looking back in hindsight, you don't know these things when you're a kid, right? Because you're only
yeah,
seeing them from kids' eyes. But I don't know anybody that has put up or dealt with
no,
what my mother has. I don't know anybody, not even close.
no. I
Not even
mean, to
close.
have 6 children
Hmm.
on a boat, one is a 2-year-old, right? So we're talking she's still getting used to this
Oh,
baby.
she's nursing.
Yeah, like this thing is fresh.
Hmm.
It's as fresh as the catch of the day. And here you all are headed to California. Your mom is incredible. We need to get her on the pod right away.
I'll tell you what, she'd be,
She'd be down.
I don't know. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, if you ever wanted to know a mother's perspective on,
She should probably write a memoir.
yeah,
That's cool.
That's
Okay, so
nuts.
what was the plan in California? Was he going to go back and you guys were going to move back, or he just wanted to sail back to California and then go back to Hawaii?
it was just an idea my dad would get. And he's like, okay, I've done Hawaii now. I think I want to go back
Okay.
because he didn't like the culture so much. The thing about Hawaii is either you love it or you hate it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Either you soak it up like a sponge and you're like, this is the coolest, or it's just not for you and you want to split. Yeah.
So for
Hmm.
you loved it. For him, he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't like it so much. It was too small for him.
Okay.
My dad needed more room to roam. I eventually moved back there by myself back in 2000, and I liked it because, just I think
Huh.
because of my age and because I found Tiana and I was chasing her down.
So backing up, you guys go back to Hawaii, you turn around, but then you all end up still moving back to California.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Okay.
But then within a year, you moved back to Hawaii.
that's right.
Okay. So now
So
you're in
you really
Hawaii.
did like it there. Like you're like, no, that feels like home to me.
Yes and no at the time. At the time,
Okay.
I had my eyes on Tiana, my wife, so that was my motivation to get back to Hawaii all the time. So
Okay. And is she Hawaiian or you just met there?
she has some native blood. Yeah, she's like
Uh-huh.
a Pacific Islander, Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino,
Oh,
Spanish, but
okay.
she's yeah.
So you fell in love. You knew my sea life is over.
Well,
No.
not necessarily.
It continued.
Okay, no, it continues. In fact, it left a very bad taste in my mouth because of like
Oh.
the how much risk that I went through, and I've almost sunk boats. I've been I can just tell many stories, sails blowing out, just the boat filling up with water, throwing buckets over to trying to keep it stay afloat. I mean, it's crazy.
Like actual near death experiences of what you would expect. Like, honestly, I would expect that. I don't think you're going to be in the water that often and not have an experience where you are literally, I don't know. To me, again, now I have a very strong fear of these bodies of water, but to me, I just feel like that would happen eventually, right? Like the bucket scenario, right? In all the
Yeah, it's
movies.
inevitable, especially if you're dabbling with wooden boats. And I mean, think about it.
Okay.
We're trying to keep antiques afloat.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, there's a reason wooden boats are only for the wealthy now and enthusiasts that
Okay.
they've gone the way the building method has gone the way of the dodo. It's not cost effective. They sail better. I mean
Yeah.
there's many benefits of it, but fiberglass, steel is the way things are now. It's just the modern way of doing things.
So
Hmm.
through line with that boat, the Criterion, what happens? You guys take it back to Hawaii. Family moves back to California. Do you keep the boat? Do you sell it? Like what happens to it at that point?
Okay, so now she's just sitting at the harbor, just sitting there,
In the water or out of the
just
water?
sitting in the water
Okay.
at a harbor. And she's sitting and sitting. At this point, I'm living in Hawaii. My dad and the family is in California.
You still own the boat though.
We still own my family still owns the boat, yeah.
Okay.
It sits and sits and sits. I would go out there occasionally and throw parties on it and stuff and take friends out and had a lot of fun with it still. But it was too big to captain by myself, especially without experienced sailors. So like my dad would do it. He would captain it, I'd be deckhand, and it was even too big for us, to be honest, but we did it.
Wow.
So it sits and sits and sits, and eventually it sinks
In the harbor.
You're
in the
joking.
harbor. No.
Wow.
Marlon Brando's boat.
Well, it was our boat at the time.
You know what I mean, Lee.
I do. Trying to raise a 65-foot wooden boat off the bottom of about 18 feet of water. Fortunately, it wasn't deeper.
Yeah.
Okay.
But being a certified diver, I was allowed, I was able to dive on it and take a look at it and see what happened to it. What happened is on the hull, you got these things called zincs. They're like, they control electrolysis. It's like basically electricity in the water. And you basically give the boat, or like the electrolysis, some metal to kind of rot, instead of rotting all your fasteners that hold the boat together. So it's kind of like a sacrificial piece of metal but anyways, this thing gets corroded, and the bolts that go through it put a hole in it. It rotted away, and then it put a hole in the boat, and the boat was taking on like substantial water for a couple of days. And we had gotten some calls like, hey, the boat looks a little bit low, something's going on. And within, I think, 2 days,
Wow.
It was gone.
hmm?
Oh, man.
So what year is that?
Ooh, that was, let's see, I was already living in Hawaii. My dad would visit me. 9/11 happened. I think it was 01.
Okay.
Okay.
So it did its job. Those, you're supposed to replace those basically, or
Yeah, but the boat started getting neglected, and leaving a boat alone for a year, just a year even.
A lot of damage.
well,
Yeah.
it's different, but it's the same in that, like, when we were all in COVID, Kingdom Halls like started falling apart because you have to like use a building, and if you don't use it, it like there's all these issues that come up, when you're not using it, sort of,
That's exactly, yeah. But like amplified on a boat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because you're sitting in the water, and water's
More destructive than like your average, just normal day.
Salt is corrosive. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're sitting in sea air, salt air, and sea water. It's everything is working against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when does it go from your boat, you pull it up out of the water, you fix that, to then and I haven't like shown the video, but we will, and
I'm going to need the video.
but now it's someone else owns it, and it gets caught on the reef and sinks.
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I wanted a happy ending about the creatine. What's it called again?
criterion.
The criterion.
Yeah.
Shoot, what do you mean?
So what's the Criterion story, and then we'll get back to your story. The Criterion boat. That boat sinks.
Thanks.
You pull it out the water like with barrels, right?
Yep. Eventually it took 85 barrels.
So you're just adding barrels until the strength of the barrel pulls up the boat.
That's right. So we slung chain around it.
Okay.
And then we sink these drums, and we the two bung holes like on a bung holes on a drum.
Whoa.
So you stick a piece of rope in there.
Okay.
And then you tie it, and then now you sink it, and then you tie that rope around the chain that you've slung around this boat low enough, choking it, and that way it doesn't slip up. And then you have a compressor in your skiff and you take your an airline and you put it in the drum and it blows all the water out. So now
Okay.
you're left with these floating devices. So we had 85 barrels it took to
Wow.
get
Good
this thing
night.
off the harbor floor.
So then
Whoa.
do you put it like bring it back to its former self, or do you sell it at that point?
We brought her back.
Wow.
We brought her back.
Did your dad fly out and like help you and get it?
Oh man, I bet he was so thrilled.
Well, he was pissed. I was the one who's supposed to be checking on it because I was the one living in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Oh
So that's a
no.
whole nother story. That was like the biggest dilemma of me and my father in our whole life. So
Okay.
that'll have
But
to be
you're
another
like what? So
podcast.
you're like
Yeah, that's
19 at that
another
point.
day.
You're probably like 19, 2001. Like you're not, you're
I
young
think I was
still.
18-ish.
So you're 18, you have a
Okay.
girl, and you're supposed to be in charge of this boat.
You get it. You get it.
Yeah, you're distracted.
I'm distracted.
There's just a massive boat sinking slowly, begging for attention,
But
while
so is,
Lee's over here flirting away with a
Mhm.
yeah.
Hawaiian princess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad is livid.
I mean, it almost costed a son and father relationship. It was that bad.
I can
Wow.
imagine.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, but
Okay,
it won't be
okay.
on air. But yeah, so we get it up and then so once it's up, now the deck is basically it's still sunk, but the deck is now at water level. So then you take pumps, you shove pumps in. As long as you could pull enough water out more than going in the boat, you'll get it to rise again. And that's what we did.
Okay,
So
okay.
we shoved a bunch of pumps on it. We got it to float. And then we skiffed it, motored it to the dry dock, and then they hauled it out. And then we started the rebuild.
Nice.
So
That
you
is
build
so
it.
exciting. Yeah,
How
so
long
you
does
have
that
pictures
take?
of it, right?
What part, Jake?
How long does it take to rebuild it? Like to at that point?
See, at this point, we've got a boat built in 1948. She's sunken. She's got structural damage more than it had before because now boats are not designed to ever lay on the bottom of
Yeah.
anything really. They're designed to float. So like the keel, anyways, it just got we cracked all kinds of frames.
Mhm.
So this time what we do is we went through the extensive process of fiberglassing it. So there's a process you could do to kind of keep these old wooden boats alive and you fiberglass them. And
Okay.
so my dad threw a bunch of money at it again
Hmm.
and kept it alive.
Oh.
Nice.
I think I didn't think about because in my head when they make boats of wood, they still fiberglass it. So back then, it's just wood and
It's wood.
it swells up and then like floats. But there's nothing really else that's keeping it um, from just it's just the wood swelling and being tight that makes it float.
Yeah, well, traditionally wooden boats are caulked with cotton, believe it or not.
Oh,
They have big spools of cotton, and you leave enough gap between the carval planking and you have what you call caulking irons. It's actually biblical even. You can look it up.
hmm.
Caulking irons. Ezekiel talks about
Huh.
it. But anyway,
Interesting.
yeah, so you caulk, you basically just hammer in this cotton. And what happens when cotton gets wet?
It expands.
Expands.
That's right. So now you got two pieces of wood that are already pretty tight, and then you got cotton to kind of fill in the void. And then
Interesting.
after you caulk it with the cotton, you fill in with red lead. It's like a compound lead rich.
Hmm.
And then you feather it in,
Weird.
and then you paint it, primers, paints, and all kinds of stuff.
Wow,
That is crazy.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Very interesting.
Okay, so you refinish it, but then you sell it at that point.
Okay, so my dad ends up dying in 2004.
Oh,
Oh,
So now, yeah, so now
bummer.
we have this big expensive boat that nobody
Yeah.
knows how to, you need a crew to handle it. So we, I, me and my dad knew some guys that are wooden boat enthusiasts. There was only about two of them in Hawaii. My dad was one, I was the next generation. But then there was this another guy named Eric Ashford, legendary in the maritime in the Northwest, Port Townsend. He's like fifth generation shipwright, which
Oh wow.
means shipbuilder, wooden boat shipbuilder. So he is manages 4 or 5 wooden boats, and he works for this very wealthy. Oh my gosh, this is another cool story. A really cool wood carver named Skip Armstrong. Look him up. He is a wooden carver in the Northwest,
Okay.
Bend, Oregon, I believe. Um, but anyways, he's the guy. He's the finance. He's the money behind all of these boats that my mentor Eric Ashford builds for. So he tells Skip, hey, Eric passed away. He's got a 65-foot Alden yawl. He goes, I want it.
Oh, wow.
This becomes boat number 5 of his, I think, because he owned, what was it, Grenadier, Tradition, Wizard of Bristol, Criterion now. So 4. I think it's 4. Might have been 5. I might be missing one. But anyways, so now he owns the boat. Skip owns the boat. And Skip, this guy, this wood carver, he is just he loves sailing. He's a wood guy through and through. He could buy any boat he wants. He could buy a beautiful fiberglass boat, but he wants wood.
Yeah.
He wants a boat that leaks. He wants one that exhilarates him when he sails it. And so he
Wow.
buys this thing just to add to his collection.
That
And
is amazing.
he's owned it ever since, Jake. And he's the one that put it up on the rocks in
Oh
Oregon.
no. So it ends up in a reef and with like 30 people on it at the time.
Yeah.
And they have to
What?
jump ship, and we'll post the video. It's wild. Like
You're kidding me.
they're just stuck on a reef, like maybe 300 meters from shore or
Oh,
something
it's the
like that.
surf lineup. You saw the surfers
Yeah.
there too, right?
Yeah, you can see the surfers kind of like trying to
How
get
did he
people.
do that?
Yeah, and that's exact. I didn't even ask him. He's a good friend of mine too, but I didn't even ask. I'm just like, it was negligence. He
Okay, stop me if this is too much, but your dad's seems like maybe kind of a local legend a little bit, maybe just because of his niche. And then your dad passes, and then Eric becomes your mentor. So does he fill a role at like a pivotal time with you losing your dad?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So I used to hate boats. I used to hate wooden boats, but it was such a big part of my life. Um, so back in 2014, even before that, so my boat's gone now. My dad's gone. The boat life is gone. But I just, you know how you cling to things that like your folks, you hate them at the time, but you're like, hey, I want to get back to that because that's what I know, that's what I'm familiar with. And I found this 1961 Philip Rhodes design, 36 foot. So she's not as big as the boats I grew up on, but she was manageable. So I bought that boat back in 2014, and she was in beautiful shape, just beautiful shape, gorgeous, varnish everywhere, just kept original. In fact, she's got some historical value. She was the poster boat of Girls, 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 Elvis Presley film, 1963.
Oh
So you
wow.
could look that one up. That's the easy one to
Wow.
look up. It'll pop right up. I got pictures of Elvis on it and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so then here I go again. I'm back in. I'm
You're
back.
back.
I'm back. So then I got my own boat now under my own captain. You know, I'm a captain of my own boat now,
Yeah.
and I just kind of keep the tradition going. Some brothers in the hall took fascination too with it, and they got involved. They helped me rebuild the whole thing. I've
Wow.
got gobs and gobs of pictures of this, of what we've done to her. We started island hopping her, went to Maui, ran her aground on a shoal in Molokini.
Oh wow.
That was very interesting. And I recently gave her away.
Gave her away.
Yeah, but guess to who?
The branch.
I thought about it.
Do you have kids? One of your kids.
No, I only have one kid, and she's with
You
me.
you gave it to Skip.
I was going to. I gave it
Eric, you
to
gave it to Eric.
I gave it to Eric
Oh,
Ashford's kids.
Yes.
oh, to his kids. So
He
he's
gave it to the, yes.
wow.
Oh man. I want to be mad, but I can't.
It's okay.
Oh, I want to be mad that you
And what
gave it
did they?
away, but now the story is just too
I
wonderful.
know you gave it to your mentor's family.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's amazing. Wow.
I was
What a
trying to
cool
get money.
story.
I was trying to get money for it. I really was, but because of what she is is either you want that boat or you want nothing to do with it. So another Lee had to be out there, and there just wasn't one in Hawaii. So I kept dropping the price, hoping I, get something out of it. I was already like didn't want to sell it. I'd rather give it away. But I'm like, you know what? My wife's like, sell it, try to get something out of it. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna offer it to Eric Ashford or his kids. And I
Wow.
called him up, and he's like, you know what?
Was he thrilled?
He too is a wooden boat enthusiast on top of being a wooden boat builder. So
He was
he
beyond.
he wants to see it keep floating. He wants to keep it around. He wants to give it to his kids.
And that's what you wanted. You
That's what I
wanted
wanted. That's
to
all
go
I wanted.
some, yeah, you want it to go somebody who actually appreciates the value, and it's going to take a rare person, and you can't just put that type of thing on Facebook Marketplace and be like, OBO. You're like, no
You
way,
get it.
man. I
You
gotta
get
get,
it.
Yeah.
like, someone special has to have this.
And here's the beauty, and because I mean this goes back to like prayers and stuff too, It was hard to let go of. This is a huge part of my life. I moved here to New York. I'm like, what the heck do I do with this thing? I still have access to this boat. I'm not paying anything for it though now. I can
Oh,
I
that's
can I can I
nice.
can show up in Hawaii and I could go take it sailing if I wanted to.
Well, so you gave it to
Amazing.
Eric's kids, but Eric is still alive and kicking and around and
Eric Ashford, yeah.
okay,
Eric Bonnie is gone, but Eric Ashford's still around.
gotcha. Were they
Oh,
friends?
man.
Were they
They
friends?
were, they
Yeah.
were to a degree though. It's interesting when you get two personalities they were both very unique.
Yeah.
Eric Ashford doesn't have a lot of friends. It's so bizarre. You know those real like nutty ones that are like
Mhm.
they're like they're just geniuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't function like in socially with others because they're just so like in another
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was able to tap into them. He for some reason he liked me, and he would
That's
mentor
cool.
me, and he would teach me everything he knows. I mean, I built boats in Port Townsend. I've done it in the boat yards of Hawaii. He's helped me rebuild mine, and now he has my boat. So
That's awesome.
just a
That
cool
is.
guy.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. I love that.
Do you have a relationship with Skip, or was he just Eric's guy? Like Eric just works for Skip, or do you know Skip too?
Oh no, I know Skip very well. Yeah, we'd sail all the time. Anytime. So he lives in Washington. He does these massive wood carvings. You'll see his work in Vegas. You'll see it. He does life-size wood carvings of wildlife mostly. It's Skip Chester Armstrong, or we call him Chester Skip Armstrong. Sorry, we
Okay.
call him Skip for short because he's a sailor too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's
So yeah,
That's
awesome.
I know
cool.
him. I know him very well. I could call him up, and in fact, yeah, I need to get with him kind of soon actually because he just bought a new boat after this one went up on the rocks. So,
Because that was just like 8 months ago, right? It wasn't
yeah,
that.
about 8 months ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
We're gonna need to continue to have updates. Let's be honest.
Sure.
We're gonna need a new highlight on the pod.
Oh,
Lee Bonnie's boats.
these Bonnie's boats.
Because we
Okay.
need to know what is going on. Like, what is Lee sailing these days?
I
He's sailing Warwick, New York.
That's
Okay,
it.
all right, we accept that. We accept that.
So then how has it been? It's been like 2 years, maybe year and a
I've
half.
been here 2 years and like 8 months now.
Okay. So Lee lives like 10 minutes down the road from us.
Okay.
So how is that being away from Hawaii? Is this like the longest you've been away from Hawaii?
Yeah, for sure.
How does it feel?
I Man, it's a lot. I left a really cool place. I
Yeah.
didn't I think I can honestly say I took it for granted.
Oh wow.
Yeah, honestly could say. I mean, I was there. Plus when you work and make a living at a beautiful place, you never take advantage of it, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
But I
just
think it takes someone special to thrive in a place that's hard to live. Like it's not easy to like build a life there and live there and make it home and afford it and all those things. So
Mhm.
you did that. So it becomes, maybe it does, maybe you take it for granted and like you don't always realize you're living in Hawaii, or you don't appreciate
yeah.
it. But you've also done something that's very hard. Like living in Hawaii is really hard.
Mhm.
It's all I knew though, you know? I mean, I moved there when I was 17 and 17, 18, I keep forgetting, but yeah, it's all I knew. All I knew was expensive groceries. All I knew was expensive housing. All I knew was, but you know, it's all relative, really. I mean, Warwick's
Mhm.
not easy either, you know. It's
Yeah.
really not. In fact, I think it's harder because you're a smaller fish in a larger tank. Hawaii, it's easy to shine. All you got to do is show up to work, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of unique, but I was established. I've just been there so long that it was, yeah.
But it's a good lesson too, to like look around at your surroundings, be like, okay, maybe where I live has these, um, tough spots, but at the same time, what are the good things that I can regularly remind myself of that I do enjoy where I'm living at,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
not
agree.
take it for granted.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like and also I feel like you're the perfect person to say it because again, Hawaii and the appeal, even today. I mean, it's like you say we're going to go to Hawaii. There's just this mental picture that people have of it. So for someone like you to say it, it's like, okay, we can trust this guy. We need to take a look around. Let's be thankful. You know, I can't really say that. I can't be like, well, when I lived in Moorfield, West Virginia, people wanted to go there so stinking bad. And let me tell you, I took advantage. I
I've
took
been to
it.
West Virginia
All right. So
recently.
it's
We
got its
know.
perks and it's got its not.
What's your perception of West Virginia? Because we have one.
Well, now that I've been there, well, I think it's like the towns that I was out, it's like a forgotten America. It's like these tiny little towns that nobody even know exist.
Yeah.
Mining towns and stuff like that. I was in a place called Hundred. I don't know if you know, ever been there?
What is it?
100.
100. I've never
Yeah.
heard of it, which is odd.
Yeah. It was what do they call it? Seldom worked or no,
Oh, yeah.
unassigned.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Unassigned.
Yeah. I've
Huh.
not heard of that before, but there definitely are a lot of places that have that same structure of like it was a very like let's say back in the 40s or the 30s, it was the thriving city. And now you drive through it and there's absolutely nothing. And there's these huge buildings, courthouses, great architecture, but there's absolutely nothing going on. So
Yeah.
it is kind of sad. It's like a lot, like you were saying, kind of like Appalachia, lost Appalachia places.
Yeah.
And what part of West Virginia are you from, Melissa?
So I'm in the town of Petersburg, West Virginia.
She still
It's a
is. That's where she lives.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's where I
okay.
live. I was born in Los Angeles. My mom and dad actually were from there. And when they moved here, they wrote the branch and asked where they could move. And they said one place. They just said Hinton, West Virginia, and that was it. So my mom packed up her rabbit fur coat and went on down the town.
I don't think I've ever heard that story that they were just LA
Yeah.
people and wrote the branch and went to West Virginia.
Yeah, my grandma was pissed.
Yeah, when you move, you piss people off, I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you know how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. We made all kinds of friends and enemies.
Oh man. But it was for the best reasons.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was. So if you're listening to this, get over yourself, enemies. No,
And this has
right?
been, Lee, this has been great.
This has been so interesting.
I love this a lot. I think that's a really cool story. I think
It's like a
Very
Joe Dirt
unique.
story, huh?
it's just like it's interesting and it's insightful and it's great. This is like why you want to do podcasts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
Well,
I don't think we have had no one on before that had that type of background
yeah.
that was like very different. We have not had anything. I mean, obviously, that's why we're having you on, because your background is so unique and a unique perspective on everything. Not to mention the fact that we need to start reading and do better about our maritime laws and phrases.
Okay, so to wrap this up, uh,
Okay.
this is what I took from this. One last question, and then we'll get to our songs and we'll go.
Okay.
What is your, because now you're a dad and you're 40-ish. What is
41.
what's your uh with time to reflect, what's your take on your dad at this point in your life?
Wow. He was a good father. He was an excellent father. Unfortunately, he wasn't a spiritual man. He had a problem with the organization, just people. He kind of got burned, and but he kind of, man, he couldn't get out of his own way spiritually. He taught me he taught me to not be like that, actually. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
saw my dad's hangups, and I know it's possible to have them, but my dad is as happy and a fun guy as he was kind of a pissed off person most of the time, you know.
Oh, okay.
So but a good man. It's hard, man. It's hard to answer that. But yeah, he was an excellent father. I hated it at the time, but and when I reflect, that guy taught me more than most fathers that I've heard of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like exposed me to. He was very proactive. Like, go, kiddo, go. Like, oh, hey, dad, so and so says he wants to use me on this. Go, man, go, do it. Yeah. So he just exposed us to a lot really young, and it kind of helped create who I am now, I guess, which is no one special, but it's the experience, the journey was cool.
Eric Bonney, complicated legend.
Yeah. And you talk to any of the brothers that know him, they speak the world of him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of questions for that man. I'm gonna have a list that I've proposed here.
Yeah.
Man,
Hey,
all
you
right.
guys are fun.
This was great.
Yeah, this
Really,
was amazing.
this
Thank
was
you
really
so
good.
much, Lee.
Yeah.
And what's your songs?
Yeah, you want to put some songs on a big playlist that we've been doing for over a year now?
Yeah, I shot you too, and I was kind of serious
Oh,
about this too.
okay.
Yeah, I think he done did it. I think he done suggested them.
So you did Sailing by Christopher Cross.
It's a song. Okay, so there's a little story behind that real quick. My
Yep.
wife, we would always take the friends out on my boat, or me and Tiana's boat, our boat. We named
Yeah.
her Exodus, by the way.
Nice.
But Tiana put this playlist that we would play every time we take people out. Those two songs are on it, but they have sailing relevance, and they're beautiful
That's
songs.
cool.
Cool. So it's Sailing by Christopher Cross, and you sent me Southern Cross by Crosby, Stills and Nash.
That's right. That's an awesome one.
Nice.
All right. I'm gonna do Sea Stories by Sturgill Simpson.
Beautiful.
Why did I know you were gonna do Sturgill?
Because he wrote a whole album to his firstborn son, and it was all based around the ocean and being on water, and it just seemed like a good time. So
it's just like the emotions are already running high.
I
and
know.
then you bring up that album.
It's such a good album. And then Anchors Away by the Bouncing Souls.
Okay.
So both
That's
album covers are ships out on the sea.
I love that.
Anchors Away and Sea Stories.
Okay, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do Even Flow by Pearl Jam.
Okay.
Ooh.
Even Flow, because that is how I want my ride to go in a boat at all times. I don't want any of this topsy-turvy.
All right. Lee, I have probably 1,000 more questions.
I do too.
But this was great. And
it was.
Really enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun. I'll be honest. I did. I just feel like I'm bringing up all these old memories. I don't think I've ever talked about it to this degree in a long, long time. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome.
It was awesome having you on.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, very cool. We'll have to do another 2.0 with Lee about the boat. Loving it.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
being with
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye.
Bye.